Railtown here for Judging Freedom. Today is Thursday, May 21st, 2026. Uncle Larry, Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, joins us now. Colonel Wilkerson, always a pleasure, my dear friend. Sometimes I think our greatest hour of danger is now. Every time you turn around, it's something worse. But let's build up to it, if we might. Did President Trump get any palpable help from Chairman Xi in Beijing last week in his efforts to take control of the Strait of Hormuz or end the war with Iran?
As I understand what occurred there and then what's occurred since, he did get some help because Xi is trying to put what he considers the forces in the world that could countermand some of the things Trump is doing. For example, his presidency, or China's presidency of the UNC, the meeting coming up is going to be dominated.
All right. I won't make you listen. All right, guys and girls and red velvet layer cake. There's a hotel here in DC that, as you go to the gents, there's a wall of all the genders, and that's one of them. But anyway, I don't really have I have some, but I don't have a lot to interface with you today. I didn't sleep well last night at all. I woke up at 1:30 or 2, and I didn't get back to sleep until 5 or something. So maybe even 5:30. So I'm a little out of it. So I apologize in advance. We are, as you know, at 21 million shares. We're over that 21 million, which is incredible. There may be a trade, we'll have to watch out for it, in the Telus stock. But I'm not telling you to do it. But, if what we've been talking about is correct, both, admittedly, I have no clue what the revenue is, but we're putting the pieces together. We can come up with some pretty high revenue targets, which I've shown you. That would be a big deal for Railtown, but of course it'd be very good for Telus. But imagine what happens with Telus stock as the new CEO comes in, unless he's a private equity guy that it's going to do to Telus what private equity does to, Southwest Airlines, Red Lobster, they destroy everything. But I don't think that's what's ahead. What could be ahead is Telus is being priced as a telecom or as a utility, the way I used to understand what utilities meant. And what if it's suddenly valued as an AI company, or at least partially, or as an AI software company? That's an interesting thing to think about. There's nothing really to do with it today unless you want to go buy some long-term calls on Telus. That's a gamble. Buying calls is 95% of calls expire worthless. It's much better to be a seller B than a buyer. All right, I did not sign in, so let me see if I can do that for quotes. I'm sure it's going to be, the heaviness is going to have it in the red. I really, well, no, it's in the green. Railtown's in the green. It's up 0.0018. But the Dow is over 50,000. S&P close to 7,500, 7,451. NASDAQ 26,323. Of course, finger is still 81. NRGV is back above $5. $5.13.5. I'm not going to do any more pitching to the gentleman who has essentially is up 60% in that stock, because I think he thinks he's going to make a lot more. HLP is being destroyed, down 12 cents at 43 cents. Well, that's the pain of listening to tips. What you guys got to realize, whales and big money, just because they have a lot more zeros doesn't mean they're not human, doesn't mean they're not just like you. And they run out of money. You know, they can build a bigger position, but once they're done building it, it's built. The heaviness can sell endlessly, 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 endlessly. They do it in parameters. And as we learned the other day, this group Ionic did it to Logic. They raised money at, can't remember, around $1.20 or something. Somewhere around there. But Ionic just shorted it every day. I got a letter from their attorney. Our client not only doesn't short Ionic, they never short stocks. Well, it's just definitional. During the day, they're selling stock they don't own. Is that shorting? I guess it depends on what your definition of is. Or how you figure out whether or not that's Norm Macdonald. What was that line? The British government is opening up army service or military service to gay men, I think is what he said. Which brings up an interesting question. How do you tell? How do you tell when a man's gay in Britain? That's probably funnier if it's said on Saturday Night Live and you've had a few drinks. All right. Let's see what's going on. I'm going to check right here because I think Ward sent me something that I might be able to go over. I'm going to check because I don't have what? Why doesn't? Okay, there it opened. Because I really don't have a big researched effort today. And I'm so afraid to play any videos for you guys. That's what he sent me. There's an interview I have to listen to, but I'm afraid to play it. I don't want to lose this channel just when the stock is slightly green. All right, let me just comment quickly, and then I'll go through your comments. One thing in terms of timing, I have no idea. Are we waiting on earnings? Are we waiting on news? Are we waiting on Telus? Are we waiting on something completely, that we haven't even heard about, which is possible? So where does that put us in timing for anything? Well, I guess we have to go back to a couple of things we know. We know in January, well, it wasn't dated January, but it was the January report, that C7 filing or whatever that they do every month, the monthly report. They said for January that they worked on Rail Engine. And I think they said they finished version 1. But then when they did the report for February, they said the same thing. They worked on it for February. So I think it's safe to at least consider that Railtown was still working on the Rail Engine part of their platform for January and February. Maybe it was just January. But if we take them at their, at the filing's word, that's January and February. If we assume, it didn't say it for March that we saw, that I remember anyway, but if we assume it carried over a little bit, and then further, if we make an assumption that the bloody thing has to be implemented, I don't know what you do with it. Do you, I don't know how you build a stack, but if Railtown is on top of it and in it, as we've shown in the layered stacks pictures, that we could assume that takes a little bit of time. I don't know how much. Does it take 2 weeks? Does it take 2 months? I don't know. But that would give us maybe some explanation, even though I'm making it up, to why January, February, March was pretty much of a non-event in terms of revenues, because clearly Railtown, I don't think it's 100% sure. 100% this way, but I think Railtown has this huge opportunity to be on top, and as a proof of concept, to be on top and embedded and within the Telus Data Center Sovereign AI stack alongside of NVIDIA. And that's such a huge jump start. And huge is probably not the word. It's massive in terms of customers and revenue, probably, as we've discussed. So maybe we can say, yeah, it would have been great if something happened in the first quarter, but maybe they were still building it and installing it, or whatever the word is. So now we're in the second quarter, and we're essentially halfway through it, which I, as you know, I got wrong the other day. So Monday's Memorial Day. Nothing's happened this week. I would just say May is out, but we don't know. There's no reason to give up all hope on any given day. But I'd say May's out, so I'd say we're looking at June. And I know there's a conference that goes on in June. I know there's, you know, I can't remember them all. There's various, I don't know about many, but there's a couple, 2 or 3 different deadline type things or conferences or whatever. I can't recreate them in my head. But I'll tell you one thing's on my mind is earnings. When does the earnings report for Railtown come out? I would think they got to get it out in June. I think I would have thought they needed to get it out. I mean, I would have thought it'd be nice to get it out on Friday the 15th of this month or Tuesday the 19th. But we haven't seen anything this week. And would they really, they don't care about our Memorial Day. But if you're this late in the month and you're Telus and you've got to put out news about every tribe you helped and every group of young girls you got education for and how you brought great prosperity to peoples around the globe. You got to do all that kind of reporting. I would just say May's up. I wouldn't expect anything in May. So I just don't know. I don't know the rules in Canada, and I don't know. Obviously, companies get exemptions, but June's going to be 60 days from the end of the quarter. They got to announce their earnings at some point. So if I had to pick something to hang our hat on, maybe Monday or Tuesday, June 1 and 2, maybe we'll hear earnings then, or maybe June 8th or 9th. It's just a guess. And then the big one that I would put out there as from a Telus standpoint, the new CEO comes in to Telus the day after Canada Day, and that's July 2nd. And maybe that's when they'll finally kick off whatever Telus has in mind. So it's a long-winded way of saying it's been a long wait, but maybe we just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks until July 2nd, and maybe that's when the Telus fanfare will start, just because it'll belong to the new CEO. I don't know. It's all guessing. But you got to hang in there. When it changes, I think it's going to change very quickly. I think the stock will, I don't know the requirements to be on the New York Stock Exchange. I guess I could Google it. But there's so many. The NYSE is crappy now too. There's different ways. The Amex is NYSE. NYS listing requirements. But it's not a New York Stock Exchange, so I might be going down a primrose path. Oh, you need earnings for 3 years of 10 million. Well, that's not happening. So they can't go on the New York. All right. So that's not happening. How about the Amex? Anyway, this looks like this is a dead end because they can't go on the New York. It doesn't look like. But my point is, once the break comes, I think you're going to see the stock. Well, here's the Amex, known as the NYSE American. Well, it's $4, but again, it needs 750,000 in income. Oh no, they could get it. They could go on the MX. But anyway, my point is, I think the stock goes over $4, $5, $6 very quickly, and voila, you have a whole different company. So just hang in there. Just hang in there, and your account's going to be completely different. All right, let's look at the Dow's up 327. So I guess we're not at war. Let me go down some of this, and then Justin Babish. Hit 90K goal. Good for you. 90,000 exactly. Good for you, Justin. That's a gorgeous goal. Gorgeous. And it's going to get more and more gorgeous. You'll see. Justin Babish spent 30,000 on lunch for myself the other day, and I felt guilty the whole time, thinking I'm eating 100 shares worth of RT. That's exactly how you should think. I used to be that way with silver. I'd go out to dinner, take somebody out, and I'm like, darn it, I could have purchased 5 ounces of silver. I don't think that way anymore because it's not my situ. But I think that's a good way of thinking. On the other hand, you got to live your life. So, you can't do that 100%. But Justin, you're 90,000 if I'm right. I mean, let's pick that it goes to if I've gone through the arithmetic before, I don't have to do it again. But if it were to get, let's say by the end of the decade, to splitting revenue in the Telus data centers, and they did, let's say by 2030, they did 200 million and maybe 50 million from their own AIP hyperscaling spending. Let's say they're at 250 million. Let's take the 50 off, just call it 200 million. And the question is, what discount do the analysts give that now? With a high margin, can you get higher than nearly 100%? 35x. That's 7 billion. That's $31 a share. So let's take a third of that. Let's just say I'm out of my mind. So it's $10 a share. Well, if a little more, but if your 90,000 shares goes to $10, you got 90 grand. And then you can buy dinner for $30 and not think about it. Chestnut. You're getting close to the $100,000 club, Justin. Good for you. Everything's good here. Every position is good. Justin Babish, I really hope to get to 100,000. You will. Chestnut. Oh, by the way, good day, William, and all. Good day to you, and woof woof to your great dog. I ran into my dog walker who loved Lucky, and Lucky loved him, and he's like a dog whisperer. The dog he was walking loved it. It was nice to see him, but he said, how's Lucky? I said, Lucky's dead. I should have told him. Chestnut, you'll get to it, Justin. I agree. Justin Babish. And if you don't, I don't know if 100 was your goal. Maybe it's a new goal. But if it's been your goal all along and it doesn't get there and the thing goes to 5 or 10 in a 6-week period, 3-month period, who knows? I just think it's going to be very on-offish. It might be more like a drive. I've never driven a semi truck, but going down those gears, there might be a first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, how many ever they have, 12. It could be like that it's stepping up. But if your goal's 100 and you got 90, you got 90% of your goal. That's pretty good. But it sounds like your goal wasn't, you're just stretching now, which is also good. But it sounds like, 90,000 is great. Justin Babish, I would even skip lunch for that. Chestnut, just lay off the donuts. I think donuts can be addictive. Justin Babish was clam chowder and smoked salmon from Fugi Daiichi. I've got you worried about that. I worry about that all the time. Let's not talk about it. Justin Babish, $30 worth of donuts would kill me. CJ Yukon, good afternoon, sir. RT still on sale. It is still on sale. And I was just realizing that I told you I'd look it up, but I didn't. And my brain is not working at clippity clop speed. But I think Friday, June 5th will be my 1-year anniversary on Railtown of basically telling you guys so urgently every step of the way. And I wasn't making up that urgency. I think the whole industry got much bigger than people think. NVIDIA is kicking, they're not only making more money, they're buying back stock, which I wonder why they do that. They're buying back stock and they're buying into other companies, and they still have excess cash flow to give a dividend. I think the whole thing is getting much bigger, and this orchestration layer, if you want to call it that, is becoming the focus point. Anyway, I think the delays are all for our good, if you can even call them delays. A lot of it is our own urgencies that we put on it. I don't know if it's any delays at all. It's just it's a big job to do. Anyway, it's been a year, so it's still on sale. I didn't know that it'd be this long, but I really don't think it's going to be much longer. I think I guess we're waiting on 2 or 3 things. The most important thing is the break in whatever you want to call this prolonged quiet period. That's the biggest, I think. And that's probably Telus, but it could be some other thing we don't know about. Earnings, I don't think you're going to learn much on the earnings report, but we can read the management's discussion. And then it'd be fun to see some research reports, if there are any. It'd be fun to see what would happen. And then you wouldn't have to listen to me anymore. Akira Nova, hello, let's go Railtown. Pat M, is this the GTII guy? Me? I was never a GTII guy. I did do quite a lot of videos on catching out the shorts, catching out the Kramers, and so I did a lot of that, but it wasn't my idea. GTI wasn't my idea, but I mean, if you want to say that I talked about the short squeeze possibilities on that, and then I flew on my own dime. I flew various cities to meet players in it, to meet the Trento mining guys, to meet some of the whales, to try to try to make things happen. Yeah, if you want to say that. But GTII is not a stock I ever recommended to buy after a certain point. I told some friends about it when it was below, 50 cents, 60 cents. But once it started moving, I saw it as a POS stock for most of the time. I started believing the squeeze really could happen. But as you know, Pat, if you've been listening, you educate yourself as you go. You learn, and you have to challenge your assumptions. And I think Kurt Kramer and Seth Kramer, and then the Hurries, and all that whole big process, I think they got away with it. And I think the receivership's going to cleanse it all out. And I started telling people to sell GTII. I wasn't apparently clear enough on it, but I would say that was 3 Augusts ago. Time flies. I could be wrong. It might be only 2, but it was a while ago. And I told people to take their profits, you take losses, buy it back in 31 days if you wanted to. But it never really registered. So that's why for this year, I've just focused, even though I love silver, I really liked Intel and then Micron, the chip story. And there's other things, miners. I just have only really focused on Railtown and buying Railtown because I think people don't hear your message if you spread it out. But little did I know it'd be a year. But no, I wouldn't call myself the GTII guy. I would say that's Ham. But I also had Ham on here day in and day out for a long time. And I did talk about what could happen in a squeeze. And some people are still waiting for that in stocks like Finger or NRGV or GDC or MTEN. And I've been pretty clear, I think, for about 2 years, a year and a half anyway, that I think the rules were changed under Bill Clinton's administration. So Wall Street doesn't sell you stock. And it is legal for Wall Street to take your shares and hypothecate them and use them as collateral. In other words, give them in a contract to somebody else's claim for collateral in derivatives. And even further, if the company goes bankrupt, that collateral can be set up to just transfer automatically to whatever that derivative or that debt claim was without having to go through bankruptcy court. So I really think that the whole thing's rigged. And I think it's very hard to get a buy-in cause squeeze. I do think you can get squeezes if the long side behaves just as corruptly as the short side. But even if you have $100 million, you can't go up against endless. But no, Pat, who are you? Donna M. Hello, everyone. Wow. Donna M. That's amazing. So Donna is now pulling out in the lead even further. Good for you. Good job, Donna. It's amazing that we're able to keep buying. Joe Marty, good afternoon, RT crew. Bought another handful. Joe Marty. 289,000. 295. That's some serious Railtown. Unknown stuntman. I love your picture. Monster Box. Nice job, Donna. I bought, wow, Steve. Steve is the Garwar Field of Railtown positions. The King of Kings. Good job, Steve. Sean Garcia. Hi, William. Long time no talk. Glad you're doing good. Nice to see you there, Sean. I hope you're well. Sean Garcia. How about that bankruptcy news on MMAT and Torchlight NASDAQ discovery of the 4 years time frame? It's fantastic. I tried to listen in this morning, but I couldn't find Junk Savvy, so I didn't. Somebody was having a call, but it wasn't Junk Savvy, at least that I saw. But let me find, I do have one, if it comes up. Yeah, from George Palikaris. NASDAQ just lost its motion to quash. Read that again slowly. The bankruptcy court in Nevada has now ordered NASDAQ to produce extensive MMAT Torchlight trading data under Rule 2004, including rash and core data. I don't frankly know what that is. Order attributes, cancellations, replaces, executions, and related transaction records covering nearly 4 years. The court was not persuaded. I was almost persuaded. The court was not persuaded by the, quote, undue burden argument, noting that producing 50 gigabytes of spreadsheet data is not exactly impossible for NASDAQ. It's one $10 UBS stick. even more importantly, the court explicitly recognized the trustee's authority to investigate whether wrongdoing occurred on behalf of the estate. The estate, when you're in bankruptcy, the estate is the corpus. It's the pot of assets that everybody's fighting over. The judge gets some in some jurisdictions. The attorneys, they're just salivating. They automatically get paid. They just got to get the judge to gavel it, and they get paid. So the attorneys are going to get their costs paid from it, and then the any other government and related fees come out of that. And certain creditors or trades are at the top. And I'm not a bankruptcy attorney, but it's basically your short-term work, your employee, the trades, they get paid, your employees get paid. I don't know about executive salaries. But then it's your secured credit, et cetera. So that's what bankruptcy is all about, is carving up the body that's laying on the gurney, gasping for breath, and you're going to start slicing it up and giving the hand to one party, the legs to another party, But one of the interesting things about bankruptcy court, and I've been through it with particularly with one company in New Orleans, where, anyway, it's a long story, but learned a lot. The bankruptcy judge has wide latitude. So it's not so much that she can change the laws, but there's wide latitude. She's God in that court. And one of the goals of bankruptcy court is to find out if there's more than one body, or if this is the right body, or can we fatten up the body first before we carve it up. So this is great news, Sean. So the court explicitly recognized the trustee's authority to investigate whether wrongdoing occurred on behalf of the estate. So maybe they can bring that back in. And fraud, oh my gosh, including potential claims tied to stock trading activity. Translation, this investigation is very much alive. Well, I would be worried that they've destroyed evidence, or they'll come back, oops, but there should be more than one way of tracking it down, I would think. For months, some people mocked and undermined the trustees' efforts, claimed discovery would never happen, and acted like every subpoena didn't get served initially and that it would be crushed before daylight. That sounds like due diligence. Instead, the wall keeps cracking. I have no idea if Double D did that, but it sounds like him. FINRA discovery, now NASDAQ discovery, and the court explicitly referenced separate pending motions involving Citadel, Virtue, and Anson. I think the hottest space in hell is probably reserved for those companies. And then the next hottest is for those who, in times of moral crisis, remain silent. Turns out Rule 2004 is not just a decorative suggestion. To the trustee and legal teams, incredible respect. It takes courage to walk into rooms filled with institutions that have virtually unlimited resources and say, produce the data. and to the echo chambers already warming up their spin machines tonight. You may want to read the actual order first. Blessings to all. All right, here's Junk Savvy. Our sources tell us the SEC Gov is using code words and language. See, she's great. She calls it out. To avoid FOIA search results regarding the MMTLP fiasco and the ongoing fraud and cover-up of one of the biggest financial crimes in history. The whole bloody, what's that movie with Al Pacino? I'm out of order. You're out of order. The whole Wall Street's out of order. So Junk Savvy says, we know that you know at FBI Director Cash. Don't you think it's about to end? This before another FOIA slips through the cracks like the one below? It's a banger. Judge Spraker, Judge Spraker, in the metamaterials BK MMAT case, seems to have a particular interest in discovery on this issue. In fact, he ordered discovery on FINRA, DTCC, and NASDAQ, with more incoming, Citadel, Virtue, Anson. How long do you think it might be before the trustee requests discovery on which market participants from the FIF attended that meeting and with whom at the SEC's TikTok? Full FOIA breakdown here from Junk Savvy. And then FBI Director Kash Patel, Cash Me Outside. This afternoon, a former managing assistant U.S. attorney who supported Jack Smith's politicized investigation of President Trump has been charged with stealing the confidential investigation documents. Carmen Lineberger allegedly emailed the confidential material to her own personal email. There's no consequences. Disguising them as dessert recipes to conceal them from record searches. Nothing will happen to her. She is a woman. There are no consequences. Ula Munk's biscuit should have never been brought. I guess that she's quoting this woman's view. So now she's being prosecuted for stealing documents. And it's a huge room full of documents. Notorious. She was attempting to preserve evidence against Trump. Oh, come on. Let's go back to what Junk Savvy's saying. I like this. Unusual whales. We just gave Claude access to the entire options and stock market. Interesting. Art Byrne, the timing here is hard to ignore. Today, the White House announced an executive order aimed at protecting America's financial system from illicit activity. That's busy brands and others Also, if you follow Promethean at all, and I try to, they believe that Xi and Putin even and Trump are trying to go against the city of London, and this might be timed with that. According to Reuters, the first order directs Treasury to identify red flags and suspicious activity patterns tied to issues like concealment of true account ownership, and to propose Bank Secrecy Act changes, strengthening customer due diligence and authority to obtain additional information when warranted. You never know who buys the offerings. You never know who's doing all the selling. And Wagner doesn't want you to know. Now look at what hit the MMAT bankruptcy docket today. This is the order on the NASDAQ motion to quash. NASDAQ did not get the subpoena killed. The court ordered that the production must include, quote, all orders, executions, cancellations, replaces, order type modifiers, and order attributes for all transactions related to MMAT and Torch. And then he says, read that again. All orders, executions, cancellations, replaces, order type modifiers, order attributes. Cheating. And that's page 1 of this order makes clear this is part of the trustees rule 2004 investigation into trading in the debtor's stock, as well as trading related to the preferred dividend under the symbol MMTLP. I didn't see that reference, but obviously that's what it's all about. This does not mean the executive order is about MMTLP. It does not mean the court has already found wrongdoing, but it absolutely shows that MMTLP, MMAT sits directly inside the national conversation now, being talking about financial transparency, suspicious activity, hidden ownership, and whether regulated institutions did what they were required to do. That article looks like it was written by AI. AI always uses the same pattern, but it's good. It's a good one. George Palikaris, I know. He's calling out the people that are misrepresenting this. Their dangerous and misleading commentary about the order is another signal of their ignorance and or desperation to protect their patrons while running their influencer faked shareholders for hire little businesses they are running for professional ambulance chasers. Brilliant. I've never met this guy, George, but he's got it. For the record, 1, the court did not say MMTLP is irrelevant. In fact, the order references MMTLP multiple times. 2, the court did authorize broad production of MMAT torch trading orders, including everything I already read. It's extraordinary. Across nearly 4 years, did you know NASDAQ did not trade MMTLP, which traded on the OTC? Hence, they do not have any MMTLP data to produce. You weird genius, you. You weird geniuses, you. 3, the court explicitly rejected NASDAQ's undue burden argument and reaffirmed the trustee's broad Rule 2004 investigatory powers regarding potential wrongdoing. 4, saying everything else was quashed is simply false. NASDAQ lost the motion to quash in all material respects related to the core trading data they control. And finally, the trustee is an independent fiduciary appointed by the court. If the investigation has no merit, the subpoenas would not keep surviving judicial scrutiny. Speculation and opinions have exactly zero evidentiary value in court. That's true. Stephanie says it's getting red hot in the MMTLP bankruptcy case. It looks like it's an MMAT bankruptcy case, but okay. They subpoenaed Citadel Securities, Anson Funds, Virtue, FINRA, NASDAQ, DTCC, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, and TradeStation. Junk Savvy. Bitch slap delivered. Quote, the court is not persuaded that in modern times, yay, finally, producing roughly 15 gigabytes of data in spreadsheet form is unduly burdensome for any entity, let alone one as sophisticated as NASDAQ, unquote. More incoming, Citadel, Virtue, Anson. Who is going to make the cut on round 2 of subpoenas? I wonder if Polymarket has picked this up yet. She's great. George Palikaris. All right, I already read that. Yeah. Sean, that's great. I'll try to get more information. We can talk about it at length. That's fantastic. I think it's great news. Bankruptcy court's different than criminal court, of course. But if they find once things are in evidence, everything can happen elsewhere. It's really good news. Ward Richardson. Justin Babish, I would recommend peanut butter and jelly on sourdough bread until this stock moves. Donna M. Thanks, Steve. My average 31 cents this morning. Darn it. You guys are starting to be great traders. I'm feeling left out. Ricky Brogan. Donna M., congratulations. Donna, thanks, Ricky. Ward Richardson. Donna, way to go, Donna. And everyone else, keep buying. Rail Engine. Donna M., thanks, Ward. Sean Garcia, love Lucky. I know. I miss him. Frankly, I miss my house, too. I was feeling sorry for myself today walking because DC's it's booming. You know, there's construction everywhere. When I bought my house, it was a bold step because everyone was still out in the burbs and everything. But anyway. I'm a great ruminator sometimes, but it's time to focus on today and what's ahead. T. Alex. Hi, William and RT crew. Hello, T. Alex. Wow, look at this. T. Alex, what the hey is going on? What does T. Alex know? That's the question. T. Alex is stepping up. That is incredible. Newt, wow, unbelievable. 463,000. Good for you, T. Alex. Dinero and his 29 cent mark has been left in the dust. He won't be adding any more to this speculative play. Lots of laughs. This company is an investment. Well, we have to admit that as an investment, it's speculative. But I think that's just, that to me, that's just because that's all we can see right now. But all those big institutional quality stocks started as speculative stocks at some point in their life. Ford, Exxon, Lululemon. So it's not bad to say that. But I really think, and I'm amazed at your action. There's a couple people out there. There's one guy that came on a week ago asking about buying 1 million shares. He never really said he was going to do it, but he didn't do it. There's another guy out there still clinging to his NRGV, which he's got a great profit in it. Man, I'd book that profit, and I'd book my ride on the Railtown ride in the sky on his favorite ship, Fantasy. I would do that in a heartbeat, but he's not going to. He's not going to. He's got 150,000 of NRGV right now, but the other day it was 180,000. That's bugging him, driving him crazy. But you can't go back. That's the thing. The market, every single day, it's a new cold hard truth. You can't go back to when it was 180. You just can't. But right now, if you got Donna's price, that guy could buy 483,000 shares, 484,000 shares of Railtown. Add a little money, get it to 500,000. And you're doing it, T. Alex. These other people, well, people here are doing it, but these other, so I congratulate you. That's going to be a significant change in your latitude and attitude once the information is out there. Because I'm telling you, once the computers can connect press releases and maybe filings, and research analysts can look at projected, well, they make the projections, but they can look at historic revenue and percentage revenue. It's a whole wide open space. And the price of this stock's going to change dramatically. To me, the question is, will it happen in 1 or 2 days, or will it happen in 1 or 2 months? But whatever it is, it's not going to be 31 cents. And in Canada, 43 cents. Good for you, T. Alex. That's an awesome purchase. And what I noticed about it, it means in Canada as well that the shorting goes on. shorting's the wrong word. This is a Wall Street crime that's been allowed, and it's everywhere. They're giving you security entitlements up in Canada too. Nobody's selling the stock to you, Alex, but you're able to buy 100,000 shares without moving the market. That's the time to buy it. They're giving it away, but people are going to wait. Like this gentleman is going to wait till NRGV goes to 11 or something, or 20. I don't know what he has in his mind. But by that time, not only possibly could Railtown be 20 itself, but they may no longer be just issuing shares as if they were giving you green stamps at the gas station. Most of you don't know what green stamps were. Sean Garcia, donuts are addictive. Yes, they are. T. Alex, I've been living on canned sardines. Blick. CJ Yukons. I have 13 gears on my Peterbilt. All right, so I got close. I said 12, 13. That's amazing. Do you run through all of them every time? Can you know how you can sometimes start your car in second instead of first? Well, I used to do that. Of course, I don't own a car anymore. Or as you're going up, you didn't have to go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. You could just quickly, anyway. Do you really have to go through all 13? Wow. MC Speed. We need to start seeing revenue before something happens with the stock, in my opinion. Your opinion is so behind times, you don't even know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? Do you know? Potential 1-2 million ARR based on the AIP deal would justify current price at 30 to 60x valuation. Why do you bring that up? I mean, it's beneath you. I think it's beneath you. In November of last year, Railtown closed the deal to buy AIP Partners, which is essentially a fleet, like a fleet of 200 AI companies, which I think are curated. They're chosen, doing collectively. Last time I heard the number, and I forget where it was in a posting somewhere, they're doing 500 million in annual recurring revenues. Well, that doesn't belong to Railtown, but Railtown owns the network, this fleet of companies. And those companies are all spending their money on hyperscalers so that they can provide AI software solutions to their clients. So they earn 500 million, but they're spending, I don't know what, half of that? I don't know, 250 million on hyperscalers? 200 million on hyperscalers? We don't know the exact number, but it's a big number. And that one would think, and should think, in my opinion, that since Railtown owns the network, that revenue is going to go to the data centers where Railtown gets the split of the pie. And more than that, most of those AI companies are in Canada, where sovereignty's all the rage. So right there, if you take, I don't know, take instead of 200, call it say they spend 150 million on hyperscalers and use 20%. If that moves to Telus, which it will, in my judgment, at 20%, that's 30 million a year. That's more than they paid for that AIP. It's 30 million a year there. What are you going on about 1 to 2 million? Why? That deal was structured that way, in my opinion, so it could get past somebody's hard ass objection to that. Hey, we're paying too much. And so they came up with a creative way to get the deal done. And, you know, that 1 to 2 million is ridiculous. It's low. It's going to happen. It's probably already happened, but we just don't know about it. But it's completely irrelevant, MC. It's completely irrelevant. It's the difference of something like 40 million shares versus 50 million shares, roughly. So number one, it doesn't really change the float that much. It doesn't really change the fully diluted that much. And it's not much of a hurdle. So I don't know why you focus on it. It's a complete waste of your energy to focus on it. They're going to hit 1 to 2 million probably in the first hour when Telus throws the switch. If indeed we've been reading the tea leaves correctly. That's a really silly analysis on your part of my observation. And then the other part of your analysis is we need to start to see revenue before something happens with the stock. You're so back-assward on that, you don't even know. You're going to miss everything. If you follow your own advice, you're going to miss out on the biggest trade, I think, of your lifetime. And it's not a trade. It's just getting in early and owning it. You're going to miss out. Let me be clear, MC. Railtown does not need to show revenue. For example, you'd like to look up in filings and reports. Well, why don't you look up Telus third quarter earnings report? Darren Entwistle mentions Railtown as one of their partners, but also look up the fourth quarter. Both times he said the same thing. And if you don't want to do that, just look up Telus, scroll back, and you'll find some articles highlighting that he said that Telus Digital and Telus, their goal by 2028 is to generate $2 billion with a B in revenue from AI-enabled technology. I pointed that out before it was in all this news. I'm not saying there's anything special about me, but I'm just saying that it's been there to see. So that's $2 billion in revenue that is going to be attributable to their AI-enabled technology. Well, what is Telus's AI-enabled technology? Is it consulting? Could be. Is it build to own? That's a term I heard the other day. Is it that their consulting group will create AI software for their clients and then sell it to them? Maybe. I haven't heard of such, but it might be. Is it their Fire IX, which is part of their Telus sovereign AI stack, which includes NVIDIA and HPE and maybe Anthropic or Cohere? But that stack is Railtown. All of that stack that NVIDIA makes and the hydro power that goes through Telus, so their electricity is 40% the cost of anybody else's. It's all about compute power, but all of that compute power is as useless as a castle made of sand when the wave comes in or the bully comes along with his big foot. It's just a pile of silica without Railtown. Of course, there's other things in there, like the large language models, but the thing that orchestrates it, conductors it, is Railtown. The thing that gets the agents working with other agents, with staying on the rails, so to speak, is Railtown. The thing that ingests real-time information and processes it in nanoseconds is Railtown. So you're completely wrong, MC. And I hope you don't follow your own advice. All you need is for Telus, it hasn't happened yet, so one's fully by her rights to wonder, is it ever going to happen? But I think it will happen. All you need is Telus to, let's say on July 2nd, the new CEO says, chung, chung, I've just pulled the switch on the most amazing sovereign AI factory stack in the world, NVIDIA, HPE, Fire IX, let's say OpenAI for the large language model, and Railtown. But he doesn't even have to mention Railtown, MC, because unlike you, an amateur, and I'm an amateur too, compared to those institutions that are going to be following it, they're going to hear about Telus pulling the switch. I don't know a better analogy. They're going to look under the hood. Do you ever listen to Jim Cramer on his show, How to Invest? Well, you find out if somebody is selling see, I don't know all the examples, but in this example, if Telus suddenly pulls the switch and analysts can calculate that their revenue from their data center is going to jump to 2 billion. I'm not clear that it's all going to be that 2 billion in 2 years. So I use 1 billion, but we don't know. I use 1 billion. They're going to say the most important part about that revenue, by the way, is the profitability, that it's software. They're going to look under the hood. And unlike you, who in all other areas of your life, you make predictions and you make assumptions, maybe with the computers you sell short with, I don't know. But in this one case, you want to see it before the stock moves. Odd. Very limited thinking. Very limited thinking. William, we need you to pay to get your Verizon wireless reinstated. All right, I got it. If they look in there and they find out that there's going to be $1 billion in revenue going through the data center, and they find out that it's going to, I don't know, OpenAI large language model, it's going through the NVIDIA chips. I don't know if there's a revenue deal when you buy NVIDIA chips or you just buy the chips. The HPE's in there, and the Fire iX is owned by Telus. They'll look at all that, but if they look in there and they see Railtown, and Railtown hasn't been mentioned, they're going to say, wait a minute, what's this? What's this? This is the distributor cap and the spark plugs? Who makes that? Who makes that part? It's making the whole engine ping and run and hum along. Who's putting that part in there? What's this company? Railtown? What's their deal? Well, they get every time someone uses compute. I see. I don't know this number, but I use 20%. You could use 10%, 5%. You use 50%. We just don't know. But the analysts will know. And she's not going to wait to see it like you. She knows that this is the hottest space in AI right now. This is the scramble. And this is where the money's spent. Why? To make those lumps of sand do something. To make them create revenue. To make them create profits. To make them create cash flow. She doesn't need to see the revenue. She just needs to be able to project it. And that, my friend, is what I submit to you. If you're waiting around to see revenue, you're going to miss. You're not going to understand it. The stock will be $15 and you're going, wait a minute, there's no revenue. They haven't even, you're going to be sucking your thumb. They haven't even done potential 1 to 2 million. This is way overpriced. If it's $15, this is thousands of X above the 1 to 2 million that I'm reading in an obscure document that came out last year just to get the deal done. And it's irrelevant anyway, because I'm so anal, I can't separate what's important from what's up my rear end. I'm going to move on, MC. If you haven't picked up on it, I think you're a shill. Sean Garcia, GTI is old news. Yes, it is. GTI is old news and getting older. And if there's ever a chance to make money back in GTII, it'll be after a prospectus or a document comes out. We can save all our thinking until then, but it'll require new money. And there's nothing better to put new money in than Railtown. Nothing better. Dave Vanderwerf. I watch regularly, but I haven't commented in a while. Thank you for commenting. It makes me realize I haven't annoyed everyone. Or maybe I have, but you're just being kind. Dave Vanderwerf. I watch regularly. Both US and Canada volume is 2.25 times average today. Wow, that's big news. So the question is, will they keep selling the security entitlement? Will the stock loan desk, will the automatic computers be allowed to create obligations on the behalf of brokerage firms endlessly? We'll find out. Railtown's actually up today. And for those of you wondering, though, my purchases are significantly in the red. But hey, that won't last long. So Railtown's up 0.0018. Fingers down 0.0243 at 79.2. I hope they have the courage not to do a reverse split, but it's going to be really hard for them. To stay on the NASDAQ, you've got to stay over $1. And that's just a ploy. And that here's what happens. So let's say Finger does have, there are some shorts out there. My opinion, they go back and forth on the big volume days and they sell a lot of it up. But let's say there's still 100 million shares. Ham says, I think 250. I think I haven't heard his number lately. But let's say it's just 100 million shares in Finger that's short, and so somebody got out over their skis, but they're winning because they have Anson funds helping them. And Jeff Easton, but they sold 100 million shares at higher prices and the stock's coming down, but they can't take their money out because this is how it used to work. I'm really skeptical if they do this anymore, but you have to have a certain reserve requirement in your account. It might be $2 or $3 a share, even though the stock's 80 cents. Who knows? But it's something. You can't get your money out because the position's not closed. So let's say it's 100 million shares, and let's say that is $2.50 a share. I want to be clear. I think the rules have changed, but this is something like it used to be. So that means the hedge funds that sold Finger that doesn't exist have $250 million sitting in their brokerage accounts. And the brokerage firms love doing it because they collect the interest on that $250. They charge interest and commission and fees to the funds to do those shares. But there's 100 million shares sold at higher prices, but let's just say that the maintenance requirement is $250 a share, $250 million sitting there. They can't get their fingers on. Well, to stay on the NASDAQ, or if you're a company actually thinking about, well, we need to be on the NASDAQ. We're trading at, 79 cents. And, we need to be on the NASDAQ. Think of all the institutions and all the whales and all the Merrill Lynches that'll come in and buy us if we're on the NASDAQ, which I think is the biggest fraud out there. NASDAQ sucks. It's not the exchange it used to be. Look what they did to Finger. Look what they do to a lot of companies. Here's what happens. Let's use the Finger example, or we could just say a company, a brand new company we don't know about, trading at 79 cents, wants to be on the NASDAQ. But let's say it's 100 million shares short, $250 million sitting there they can't get, and they have to maintain that stock and pay other fees. Well, here comes the slickster from New York City. Hey, you know what you should do? you should get your stock on the NASDAQ because everyone's going to buy it and your stock's going to go up like a son bitch. Well, they won't talk like that in New York. Your stock's going to go up like a rocket because everybody can buy it once it's on the NASDAQ. They can't buy it on the over-the-counter. Are you kidding? Well, here's what happens. Why don't you do a 1-for-5 reverse split? And your stock will be trading at $4. So you take 79 times 5, $3.95. Hey, and institutions can buy it. Better yet, that's under $5. Why don't you do a 10-for-1? So your stock will be trading at $8, $7.98. And then institutions galore can buy it and it'll go up. But you know what you don't recognize you did? A 1 for 10. That 100 million shares sitting there like an albatross on the hedge fund, costing money every single day, every month to hold, and tying up $250,000 in capital. It's just an example. Gets reduced to 10 million shares, not 100 million, 10 million. So that you help the shorts reduce their cost of carrying all this crime from 100 million shares down to 10 million. Whatever they're paying, they're only paying 10% of it now. More than that, they can take 225 million of the money out of that account. And guess what else? The stock is now on Adina Friedman's NASDAQ, where she could not give one whit about shareholders or CEOs. When have you ever heard her defend MMTLP, MMAT, Torchlight? When have you ever heard her stand with shareholders or CEOs? Never. Never. So the stock's $8 now. And let's say there's a delay. Guess what? That heaviness, those shorts, they now have 225 million they can put in a new account. And they could start selling the stock all day long, driving it down, walking it down, driving it down, driving it down. Is it worth $8? Well, no, the market now says it's worth $6. Yeah, but we did that. No, well, it's $6. All right, driving it down. Now it's $4.50. Wait a minute. It's under the Merrill Lynch rule. All those institutions that could buy at $5 or higher, they can't buy. Well, but now what do? The stock's down. Well, a lot of institutions don't like the fact that you only have 10 million shares out. They like a bigger float. I tell you, trying to play that game is foolish. But that's what's going to happen to Finger. Or it's what could happen to Finger. It's what could happen to Finger. All right. Let's look at, it's 4 o'clock. Let's look what's happening. See if anything is happening in Canada with Railtown. 315,000 shares in Canada. The doesn't give me the average volume, unfortunately. I don't see it. Though that does sound high. No news, no filing, no No earnings. No, what's that? Form C, CSE Form 7. We just got it on May. I don't know. All right, let's keep going. Sean Garcia. She doesn't host space calls anymore, really. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I should call her. She's great. Busy Brands is great. A lot of those guys and girls are great. Sean Garcia. Unknown stuntman. I had changed my profile pic because my kids were saying jackass. Are they still saying that? Maybe they were referring to you. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Sean Garcia. 100%. Sean Garcia. I still loved your 1,150 per share for MMTLP, 100 for pain and suffering. Yeah. I still, that's what I came up with. Here's the problem, Sean. They were successful in delaying it. They also, I think, criminally threatened university lands employees. I think they threatened employees at Nextbridge. So they broke the law all over the place. They also had shills on the space calls and the X calls, whatever it used to be called before X, Twitter calls, to get people just to do nothing. So the combination of not giving Greg McCabe a full shareholder book and the physical threats to people in the leasing process such that the lease for the Oro Grande went away. And then all these powerful attorneys buying time. That's what changed from my projection. I would still make the argument I made before with all the players. And you know, what's amazing, Sean, is a lot of what I projected is happening vis-a-vis Nextbridge. I don't think I projected that it would go into bankruptcy, MMAT, to get Discovery. But the idea of Discovery, once all these attorneys, and there's so many of them, are finished preening and showing off to each other. I went to Harvard, well, I went to Stanford, I went to Chicago, I did this and that, and we've got a 528 problem here. And let me get back to my client, running up the bill. Once they get through all of that and the facts are there, they're going to settle. And I also made the view that the most obvious way of solving this problem was to buy shares from Nextbridge. And it looks like that might be happening. But anyway, I had all that. You're exactly right. Here's my problem with it now, because but if fraud's there, and also if there's a courageous judge or there's a groundswell, it still could go back to those numbers I said. But here's my problem: the thing that glares at me there, and there's two sides of it. One is people need to transfer their shares of MMTLP to NextBridge, to the transfer agent. So many people haven't done it because they listen to the forked tongue of Double D. My judgment. So one argument that the attorneys are going to have is, Your Honor, my client stood fully prepared to give one share of NextBridge for one share of MMTLP for 4 years. And the onus is on the shareholder. This Double D didn't tell you this, but it's in the facts FAQs listed on NASDAQ a few weeks later, right there. It's on you. So if you don't do it, I think they're going to argue you forfeited your claim. That's what I would do, and I'm not even an attorney. So that's one issue as time has gone by that I still emphasize. Every single one of you should at least put it in writing by email or phone calls and notes. Send an email that you requested the transfer. All right, the other big glaring thing that stands out to me is what is one share of NextBridge worth? Back then, I could make an argument for what it was worth, plus all of those things. But once the Oro Grande leases were lost, which is criminal actions, I think, by the way. But an attorney is going to argue, Your Honor, the shares aren't worth anything. They don't own what they used to have. The only reason those shares had any value was the upside at the Oro Grande, but they don't even have the Oro Grande anymore. So those are the two holes in my previous scaffolding of how high the payout could be. Now, even though I'm negative with both of those, I think if fraud is proven, or if there's somehow proof that they did threaten people, I think my numbers are going to be low. I think you can take down the whole system. But I don't want to be negative. Because I think the NextBridge people who have moved their shares over, I think NextBridge, my guess is they're not going to do 40 million shares at 15. They might do 50 million shares at $18 or $20. But I did listen to one of Junk Savvy's calls, and she pointed out, she called in, and she got the sense it would be 15, and somebody else said it might be illegal to change it. So maybe just to let sleeping dogs lie, they won't change it. But when there's demand, in my experience, they raise the price and expand the offering, and that might happen. So I think everybody that's got their MMTLP at the transfer agent is going to have proof, and it could be soon. Of course, it's a judgment call on my part, but it's going to have proof of account value significantly higher than the money they put in. Is that going to trigger a squeeze? Obviously not now, because they're not going to give you, and that's another thing. I thought they would give trading days, that they'd have to reopen, but I just don't. It's in the hands of the courts now, and I don't see them doing that. there's some people here, Sean, have suggested that 2 days trading, close only, would get it done. Well, here's the flaw I see in that. If you tell the criminals that you just got to make it through 2 days of trading and your obligations are done, that's like Brer Rabbit saying, please don't throw me in that briar patch, because the criminals, all of a sudden, all their obligations are gone. All they got to do is make it through 2 days of trading. You can't force them to bid to close. They'll just all bid 50 cents, all bid $1. And how does the judge say, no, you have to keep bidding higher and higher and higher? I don't know. I really don't know. I guess the judge could give a penalty. If you don't buy it in, you're going to lose your franchise to trade to be a brokerage house, and all your executives are going to go to jail. Then they buy it all the way up. But I don't see that scenario happening. So, Sean, it's not that I don't believe anything horrible happened, and it's not that I don't think there could be good solutions, but so much time has gone by. I just don't think that any judge or any court or any legislative body is going to set up a short squeeze. So then you're going to say, well, can it be that they owe us that $11.50? And I remember that breakdown, like $1,000 for the squeeze, $100 for the pain and suffering. I think you just wrote it down, and then $50 for a dividend. I think something like that. Could we get that kind? Yeah, you could. I think if there's fraud. But by now the lawyers, and I'm not talking 3 lawyers. You've got probably at least 500 lawyers, and I wouldn't be surprised that it's expanded to a couple thousand lawyers involved here. Some are on the payroll of their brokerage firm, but many of these brokerage firms have gone out to their counsel and hired them. So you got all the attorneys to be paid. They get paid first. They're going to settle. And so a settlement is an agreed number from the bad guys and the bad attorneys to the good girls and the good attorneys. And I don't see it being, without fraud, I don't see it being that high, but it could be. It could be. But the biggest thing that's gone against us is time. And the system did that. They got time. I will finalize this little outburst by saying, if you move your shares successfully to the transfer agent, to NextBridge, if in fact there's a settlement, it'll be made available to NextBridge shareholders and this chit that's in your account at your brokerage firm that either says MMTLP or it says NextBridge, but it's not really NextBridge shares. And the thing you do not want is for Greg to ever trade his shares until he gets his stock to $100, $200, $300 a share in this next oil and gas cycle. He could get it higher. Look, Greg is going to have 400. Actually, it could be 600 million or more to go out and gobble up acreage and buy up companies, buy up underfunded projects. When Wall Street destroyed the over-the-counter markets and the NASDAQ markets, they did it so there would be a monopoly on where they directed their clients' funds. All these retail brokers giving the money into management. And that money has been going to electric vehicles, maybe, and to these hyperscalers and the MAGA 7. Now it's going to go to AI. It has not been going to gold or silver or oil or energy. There's just been no market. It's going to come. It's going to come. And Greg's going to be there first. So you could see NextBridge go, and obviously I'm projecting way out ahead of what's visible, but NextBridge could go to hundreds of dollars a share in performance. But he cannot let it trade, because they'll start selling stock, and they'll make each of you, if you want to sell, you can sell in the open market. All those little chits in your account will become tradable, just like every other stock out there now, like Railtown. And I don't know if there's, Tom Ronk said there's something like 50 million shares in one of his reports that were sold as exceptions to Reg Show with Railtown. But I don't know if they just did it, they settled it up later on. But why help them out? Why help them out? Just in all of these, Railtown, Finger, MMTLP, don't help them out. Let them suffer. Anyway, I'll move on. Sean Garcia, it's been a long road, William. Yes, it has. But I don't have probably as many shares as you do, Sean. But I believe that my 4,269 shares of MMTLP, which are now NextBridge, they're held at X Trinity or whatever the hell name, AST transfer agent. They're held there. And I think after the Roth Capital deal, they'll be worth 50, 60, 70 grand. I won't be able to trade them, but you know, it's not the big blast off number, but it's better than a poke in the eye. And meanwhile, the great work by all these people, including the two CEOs of Torchlight and MMAT, could prove out fraud, and fraud changes everything. And it looks like they're going to. Sean Garcia, 100%. Yeah, there's a guy there named 100%. He's great too. Sean Garcia, love Junk Savvy and crew. Yes, I agree with that. Sean, did you see Hester Pierce quitting and going to work? Of course. Of course. She's gonna get a plum job just like Jessica Hopper did. There's no consequence when women break laws. Never. But then again, there's no consequence when these men like Gary Gensler lord themselves around like they're modern day financial princes and do nothing. And then he's going to get a job probably at Goldman Sachs or somewhere. There's no consequence for any of these people. But there's no consequence for Adina Friedman, Ann Wagner, and Jessica Hopper. There'll be no consequence for Hester Pierce. None. None. Sean Garcia, I'll be quiet now. No, go ahead. You should tell me to be quiet. Let's see if there's anything. Let's see if there's anything with Railtown after. There's no filing. There's no earnings. No earnings. So, yeah, it's not a hard call to make, but it feels like May people are going to get a chance to add to their positions in May. And that's great. I think it's great for everybody. Pat M. Hi, guys. I'm late. Oh, so that wasn't you before. You're purple. You're not blue. Mein Gott. Thank you for joining. Sean Garcia. Yeah, it's MMAT bankruptcy case. But the last thing these attorneys want is evidence that the rest of us can see. They hide in the shadows and they make fun. They hire people. Once there's evidence, it's going to be tough for them to hide. Sean Garcia, 100%. Pat M. I see fake Pat M 6399. Not me. I have an upper case name. I'm upper class, not lower class. Pat M. I wouldn't ask you about other stocks either. No, you can ask me about other ones. I'll delete that other one. Pat M. Maybe you can delete that fake. I will. Dan. Dan Randall. Barron Trump is going to be the meme king. I don't know why that trust bought AMC, made 100,000 purchase before Adam Aaron bought. Really weird. Well, look at who's around Trump. Guys, I know it's not, I'm not saying anything bad about a culture or about a religion. I really not. But you got to look at who's around. It's the big funds, and they, anyway, I'm not going to fill in the blank because it'll be misunderstood. But I wouldn't be surprised that some of these funds know, look, AME and GMC got bailed out. Stevie Cohen and I think it was Citadel bailed out. Anyway, there was a fund that went bankrupt almost on the short squeeze. Melton or Marvin Capital, or I can't remember. Melvin Capital, something like that. So they bailed him out. And then they brought in Cohen to just to keep fleecing everybody. And he built up a huge cash position. So anyway, I believe these guys all know. This guy Lutnick that ran Cantor Fitzgerald, all his life he was early to work. One day, he took his children or his grandchildren to school. One day. And it was luck. At least according to him, it was luck. I think they know. I think there's a lot of illegal sharing of information, and maybe Barron benefits from that. I don't know. I'm not accusing him of being dishonest. I don't think Donald Trump is dishonest, but I think people around him might do that. There's rumors that they trade on his tweets before they come out on the poly market for the war. So it doesn't surprise me that he made $100,000 on it. E. Belanger added 2,916. Wow. Good job. 650. Woo. I think I'd have to combine the accounts and look, but I think you're number 3. I think as a single account, you're number 2, I think. Donna M says, bummer, Pat M. Sean Garcia, Adina is a joke and needs to be walked out the door and investigate. She turns a blind eye to all the criminal activity on NASDAQ. She got her start, as I understand it, at Carlyle Group, and I'm sure it's because of her brains. But then you got to figure she wants to circle back, you know, what do you call it? Revolving door back to Carlyle and get a bigger salary than she makes, something like $2.5 million a month for not doing her job. She has a duty. She swears an oath, but it doesn't matter to her. Not when she's one of the top 5 most powerful women on Wall Street. Why should she do her job? Of course, there's men that don't do their job either. But I think most people do their job. It's just they don't know what's going on. This thing is so pernicious. Most people, if you mention short selling, they're going to laugh at you. You've got to present it in the broader crime, because it's not just short selling. It's not just that. It's at least a dozen to 20 different factors or levers they've captured. And she knows it. She's got to be smart enough to know that. But it's her job. Sean, and it's also that guy at over the counter, Charlie Cromwell Culberson, the Toyd or the Foyth. What a joke he is. I moved all my shares out of Fidelity Roth IRA to Equinity. Good for you. I did that. You have a lot. I think I had like, you know, I don't know, 1,100, 1,200 shares in my IRA, but I moved it. I never thought I'd get it out, but the IRA part took about 30 days, 40 days, a lot of phone calls, and then finally a supervisor said, well, we can do this, but you have to sign. Do you understand that this could be a taxable event? I said, yes, but they're worthless. So I don't see how it is, but okay, I'll sign it. And then they transfer it to my regular account. And then it took about, I'd say, 40 days for it all to happen. So good for you. Of course, the one thing is you can't record that as a loss. But to me, that was worth it. I'm very happy to have my shares at Equinity. Fractions of Jupiter. Railtown so dripped out in swag right now. See, I don't get the slang on that. I think Railtown has several things that could surprise us. I've shown you that about a month ago, they had a hackathon and something like 2,300 developers signed up that night or the next night, something like that. It'd be interesting to see if that grew or is growing with any kind of, algorithmic number on it. It'd be interesting, but we don't know. That's one area, in other words, is sort of the self-grown users, developers. Are they catching any purchase there? The other area, obviously, is the one that I think we're waiting for, which is Telus. But it could be Uniserve or it could be both. Simply the proof of concept that Railtown is, and this is my opinion, there's, a guy I really respected doesn't even speak to me anymore. I think he thinks I've lost my marbles and I'm no different than Ham or Tony the Tiger or Dan Borders. Well, I think he's wrong, but I guess I can see, I don't even know if that's what he thinks. But it's my opinion that Railtown, the two guys, which comes very close to my definition of being genius. Genius is hard work. Genius is vision. Genius is putting it all on the line early before anybody else sees it. And processing all that information and all the instinct and all your years of experience and making the right call. So anyway, I think Railtown is first to market. This guy, I don't think, agreed with me. He was in the technology space, and I think he saw, I don't know for a fact, but he saw LangChain and Google ADK and other well-funded technologies beating Railtown to the punch. I think he saw the fact that Railtown hasn't really come out with a bang yet, that they've obviously, they're going to miss the whole thing. Respectfully, I don't think he ever really understood this situation. But I think in general, with technology, that happens. You can have the best idea, and if you don't get it out there, somebody can beat you even if they don't have the patents and the IP. But I still believe Railtown was first with the idea, first to market, and they're going to be best in class. I still believe that. Better than anything else out there. Now there's the Google ADKs. Google, Amazon apparently is trying to build something. In fact, maybe using LangChain. But those two could be buyers too of Railtown. But I think Railtown wants to stay neutral. I think that's what Corey told me back in December. Switzerland. We are Switzerland, he said. And I think they'll stay that way. So it is a risk in, the technology, the also ran technology companies. When everybody's scrambling to do the same thing. Everybody's scrambling to buy land, build a data center. Well, it gets more difficult. The people that went and bought the land 10 years ago were early and then got the permits. They're already up collecting revenue. So I think what's happened with Railtown is they were early 6-7 years ago. And I do believe that their soup to nuts solution from conductor, rail tracks to rail engine, the whole platform, real time and compliance and orchestration, the whole thing is one-stop shopping, but they can process any software language, including, I think, verbal and handwriting and pictures, and digest it all and put it all on a shared screen, glass, I think they call it, so everybody can work real time. I don't think anybody else has that. Nobody. But can other people be close? Sure. Sure. Like I already mentioned, Google ADK, LangChain has some things. And there's a whole list of 12 or so competitors. But I still stand by Railtown was first and is best. Well, we're about to find out. And if, in fact, the tens of billions of dollars that Telus has spent so far, I'm going to show you, if I can ever shut up, I'll show you. Telus is going to spend tens of billions more building out this concept of a sovereign AI factory. If I'm right, and I say I only in that it is my conclusion, I'm not sure that I've ever been specifically told anything like this, although there's one conversation where I don't know what was meant to be said or not. But so it's a lot of my conclusions. But I don't do it by myself. And there's analysts, and you can read and read and read and study and study and study. And a lot of the conclusions, they become self-evident. So I'm not trying to take credit. I'm just trying to take responsibility. I believe Railtown is the key ingredient that's going to make the Telus data center profitable for Telus. And it's going to show the rest of the world that the concept of sovereign AI is made better, not by something that's nice to have in Railtown AI Technologies platform, but my belief, it's going to be Railtown AI Technologies platform is a must have. And it's a gigantic market. So there's room for many of these and still to make everybody to make a lot of money. So I think the Telus flipping the switch is what we're waiting to see, but it could be other things. I don't know. It could be that it's caught fire with developers organically. It could be Uniserve proves out the concept. It could be, I don't know, a bid from Microsoft or IBM, preemptive bid gets the excitement going. I think that the reason there's been a quiet period in news has to do with Telus, but I could be wrong on that. If there's something else out there that's been holding it up, if finally the news breaks, whatever it is, and research reports come out, that moves the stock well. So as well. So if that's what you mean by swag, I agree with you on all that. I can't tell you what's happening because I don't know. Is something likely to happen tomorrow? I doubt it. If it's good, I would think it would happen at the beginning of a week. But isn't Monday Memorial Day? So why do it? Why do it this coming week? So I think we've got until June, probably, but maybe not. Jack Hamilton. Good afternoon, Sir William. Sorry, just catching up. Hope you and all Railtown fans are well. Same to you. Jack Hamilton, nicely played, Donna. I agree, Donna. That's awesome. That's a great position. And the system is giving you these shares. no one's selling these shares. No one. Not the BlackBerry guys, not the inside, not the employees, nobody's selling these shares. So you're going out and buying the shares you're getting back at the corrupt system that destroyed your MMTLP wealth, your G-Bucks wealth, and etc. You're getting back at them because they're so full of hubris. They're so cocksure. They don't turn off the machines because they're in their own competitive race too. They're using their paymasters' capital. Maybe it's the Stevie Cohen arm's length, maybe. And they got to outperform the other guy. Otherwise, the capital's going to go to the other guy. And it's all men. Women don't cheat like this. They cheat other ways, maybe, but not this way. Donna M. Thanks, Jack. E. Belanger, I forgot to salute you in French. Alors, bon après-midi, Mr. Ferron. Do you know that, E. Belanger, my name may be Huguenot, and it may come from your city. I don't know if you come from France or you're just Canadian, but it may come from your French city, Clermont-Ferrand. So that could be where Ferrand comes from. And it may have been spelled F-E, Ferrand. And coming off the boat, back then to be Catholic wasn't the thing to be. So maybe they changed the name to Ferrand with an A. I once went skiing. I had a girlfriend, really, I did. Anyway, I guess I can't tell the story without giving out her name. Well, it doesn't matter. I went to get my ID card to want to, I guess, lock up my skis or to exchange my ski because I don't think I was finished. But anyway, they gave me back an ID card, and it was a woman from Detroit, Michigan. I forget where exactly, but her name was I won't say her first name, but her name was Ferrand. Oh, wait a minute. And this isn't me. I'm a guy. But I said, wait a minute, that's my girlfriend's name. But my girlfriend didn't marry me. If my girlfriend had married me, that would have been her name. Anyway, she worked around here somewhere. We got together 2 or 3 times, 2 times, 3, something like that. But she was actually Jewish heritage, and she came in I can't remember if it was her parents or her. It was it's so horrible what happened. But as people escaped the Holocaust, they moved here, and whether it was her father or grandfather or uncle, they took the name from the street sign where they lived, and the street was Ferrand in Detroit, Michigan, which isn't too far from Canada. So anyway, I don't know why I rambled down there, but Eric, the Ferrand might be Ferrand, could be. On the other hand, it could be there's some Italians with that name, and there's small possibility it's English or Irish, but That's not where I get my Irish. Nobody knows. My brother probably's figured it out. But bonsoir. I don't know how to say good afternoon. Maybe that's it. Bon après-midi. After, yeah, that's afternoon. I figured it out. You can see why I got straight A's in French. It really stuck with me. Justin Babish, when people say position close only, instead, judge could compel brokers to close open positions, not trade. Yeah, but at what price? At what price? You know, you'd have to write a rule book that would be thicker than Stacey Abrams' mental block. Why did she get $2 billion? Stacey Abrams. Do you think there was bad elections down there and she was paid off because she got Joe Biden elected? No, couldn't be that. But anyway, you'd have to have instructions so thick. I think the only way, Justin, you could make brokerage firms pay up is to tell them they're going to jail if they don't buy all those shares back in 2 days. And if they don't buy it back, all of them, they're going to lose their license and their franchise. And they're going to have to break up their brokerage firm, and they're going to have to give their retail clients to Edwards, give their institutional clients to who's left that's honest, give their institutional clients to Chuck Schwab, and they lose their rights to trade U.S. Treasury bonds or bid on the bonds, and they just go out of business. That could compel them to bankrupt their firm and bid. But I just don't see how you can force them. All they would have to do is wait, put a bid out at $1 a share, wait 2 days. Hey, Your Honor, we put out a good faith bid, but we only were able to buy back 10,000 shares. Well, the time's up, so I absolve you of the rest of your obligation. Those shares don't exist anymore. Of course, maybe I'm being too cynical. Ward Richardson, William, I agree with you. First to market, best in class. All right. So you guys listen to Ward. If you have the need for speed, you need the RT stack. Yeah, I like that. Not only speed, but you need to stay on the track. You need the RT stack. E. Bélanger. It's Clermont-Ferrand, really near Ferrand. So maybe, yes, you're from France. Oui. Yeah, we might have, it would be on my grandfather's side, and apparently it would be the Huguenots. But I don't know how to prove it anyway. And the Huguenots were chased out of France because they were Catholic. Is that right? Or they weren't Catholic? Were they Protestant? Were Huguenots Protestant? Let's find out what a Huguenot is. My dad would talk about it, and I never... They were Protestants. Huguenots. Religious group of French Protestants who held to Reformed Calvinist tradition of Protestantism. The Reformed Church of France. from the time of the Protestant Reformation. The rest of them were Lutherans. The St. Bartholomew's Day Massacre in 1572. The Huguenot community made up 10% of the French population. It was reduced further in the late century after the return of Louis XIV, who instituted dragonnade to forcibly convert Protestants, and then finally revoked all Protestant rights in his Edict of Fontainebleau of 1685. In 1686, Protestants comprised just 1% of the population. The Huguenots were concentrated in the southern and western parts of the Kingdom of France. As Huguenots gained influence and more openly displayed their faith, Catholic hostility grew. A series of religious conflicts followed, known as the French Wars of Religion, fought intermittently from 1562 to 1598. The Huguenots were led by Jean d'Albret. Her son, the future king, Henri IV, would later convert to Catholicism in order to become king, and the princes of Condé. The wars ended with the Edict of Nantes of 1598, which granted the Huguenots substantial religious, political, and military autonomy. Huguenot rebellions in 1620 resulted in the abolition of their political and military privileges. Under the rule of Louis XIV, gradually increased persecution of Protestantism. Huguenots were forced to either convert to Catholicism, possibly as Nicodemites, or flee as refugees. They were subject to violent dragonnades. Louis XIV claimed the French Huguenot population was reduced from 900,000 to 1,000. He exaggerated, but the dragonnades were devastating for the French Protestant community. The exodus of Huguenots from France created a brain drain, as many of them had occupied important places in society. The remaining Huguenots faced continued persecution under Louis XV. By the time of his death, Calvinism had all but been eliminated from France. Persecution of Protestants officially ended with the Edict of Versailles, signed by Louis XVI in 1787. 2 years later, with the Revolutionary Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen of 1789, Protestants gained equal rights as citizens. Who knows? Who knows? The diaspora. Most of the Huguenot emigres moved to states such as the Dutch Republic, England, and Wales, Protestant-controlled Ireland, the Channel Islands, Scotland, Denmark, Sweden, Switzerland, the electorates of Brandenburg and the Palatinate in the Holy Roman Empire, and the Duchy of Prussia. Some fled as refugees to the Dutch Cape Colony, the Dutch East Indies, various Caribbean colonies, and several of the Dutch and English colonies in North America. A few families went to Orthodox Russia and Catholic Quebec. All right, that's enough information on the Huguenots. I'm pure Canadian, Quebec, a Canadian creation. Sounds like you might be a Catholic. Justin Babish, doomsday sayers are afraid of AI that is self-aware and wants safeguarding built in. Could be another RT function. Well, this is something that I believe is a big, but I don't know if it's from studying things. I don't know if the company, Justin, what I have to be careful of is my ideas might be going way ahead of where the company is. And I think what the company has right in front of them, this data center, which is expanding to Kamloops and then maybe to further Telus data centers, it's huge. They don't need to be distracted by anything else. Just get that right, and the world is their oyster, unless they're Protestant. So, yeah, I agree with you, Justin. I think that when you have agents spending tokens with other agents, and I read you the article several times. I can do it again. I don't think I'll do it today, but by a mathematician that points out that the world spends 40 to 50 trillion dollars every year in exchanging goods and services, including software, and that Bitcoin makes up about 2.5% of that, and it doesn't really fit the definition of money. And let's save time by not going through the various elaborate discussions of what is money. Nobody knows. It's just something everybody accepts as money. But one of the key things is it stores value, at least in the reasonable short run. It's divisible. It's unique. It's definable. And it's a unit of value. No one really knows how to define money. Well, Bitcoin has never quite made that, because you can buy Bitcoin, and if you're running a auto dealership and you take all your money and you order a fleet of I don't know, Chinese electric vehicles, but the price is so much in Bitcoin, and you say, sure, I'll buy them. Here's my deposit, and they ship them to you, and you have to pay at delivery. Well, even in the 2 months it took to deliver, 3 months, Bitcoin could have collapsed in half. That's not a store of value in the short run. But this mathematician makes the case that, in fact, Anthropic has created what now is the go-to method of spending buying and spending tokens when you're buying and spending compute and when you're using AI on, on the web, I guess. I don't know what else to call it. But when AI agents are interacting with other AI agents and are authorized to buy and spend tokens, everybody is using what Anthropic has. I think that's where Railtown, without losing its neutrality, could provide what you're talking about. Making sure that those agents, there's no question it's an Anthropic system, just like a MasterCard system or something like that. But that system needs the coordination, the orchestration, the compliance, the instantaneous tracking and changing, correcting. Anyway, it'd be perfect for Railtown to be the platform layer there. They're just, Anthropic would be one of their customers, not giving up Switzerland. Anyway, I agree with you. It's a huge function. The other area that I've come across, they call this framework that you're talking about, the safeguards. Some are calling that harness. That's the harness layer. And to my memory, but I have to look up the research I did. To my memory, it's Snowflake who is claiming the first accepted methodology of the harness. But I might be wrong. It might be a different company. My memory might be wrong. But again, I think Railtown could be on top of that, or the platform that interfaces with that. And I think it'd be brilliant. I like how you're thinking. But for now, I think Railtown has to focus on the plate or multiple plates in front of them before they start looking over on the other banquet tables. They have a big feast right in front of them, I think. This Canadian sovereign AI I think is huge. But if the proof of concept works, I think it's going to spread around the world. Justin, government might make something like control built into hardware a law priority. Absolutely. That's already there. Imagine robots becoming RoboCops. Imagine robots working in places with human beings. Imagine the regulations on self-driving automobiles. Imagine drones, airlines. You're exactly right. That's the big area that Railtown, I think, has enormous strength in. Enormous strength. All right, let me see if I have anything to show you. I don't know if it moved over onto this. It may not have, because I don't have my Wi-Fi. Yeah, I think it did. All right, now you're going to be bored because this is Telus. But I want you to think about a couple of things about Telus. Oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to read it. Telus is a telecom, right? It's a commodity. I mean, what's unique? You got your customers, you send them a bill, they pay you, you know. But it's early and focused on AI. So they're making a huge commitment into building data centers. Well, everybody's doing that. And I don't know how that's valued. I don't know how it works. But going back to my point that I believe in the case of Telus, Railtown is on, around, and in the data stack, the NVIDIA stack, the Telus stack, and Railtown makes it work for the user. That's my opinion. And I don't make that up. We've been doing this now for a year. I can't remember every source as I'm saying it, but I'll give it to you as somebody told me about Bitcoin mining. A friend of mine bought some properties. There was a company out of New Mexico, primarily in Texas, but they're based in Midland, Parallel Petroleum. They sold their properties to the Koreans, and the Koreans overpaid. They couldn't make it work, and ultimately the properties came back to market. Anyway, this guy bought part of the natural gas properties, I don't know, 5 years, maybe more ago. And what he's doing with it is he built up miners. He built up little miniature power stations on his property to power computers to mine for Bitcoin. And he did it every month, and he would sell the Bitcoin, still does. And I can't remember. We sat at a party I think it was in Dallas, actually, for Netherlands Sewell. It was a retirement. Anyway, I flew. And he was drinking, and I was drinking probably sparkling water. And we talked for a long while. It was very interesting. And I'm always skeptical on Bitcoin, probably because I never made that first purchase I should have. But I said it's great. I think he made $100 grand, $150 grand a month doing this. Anyway, at some point, the water went through me, and I said I got to excuse myself. So I went to the men's room. And I guess the same thing must have happened to him with his beers, because not right away, but he came in, and it was, I don't know how we ended up in the same place. But he said to me, one more thing. I was washing my hands. He said, one more thing I got to explain to you. What I'm doing is I'm taking natural gas, an MCF, which I can sell now for $2, $1.70. It was cheap then, and I think it's because of the transportation costs. So I can sell my MCF at $1.70. Instead of selling it, I'm putting it through my miner. I'm built this little factory to mine for Bitcoin. I'm ending up selling the Bitcoin. It's as if I'm selling my natural gas for $11 or $12 an MCF. I'm making $10 an MCF premium by mining for Bitcoin. So what I want you to think about with Telus, Telus has the first sovereign AI factory in Rimouski, Quebec. I think it's on the St. Lawrence Seaway. It's hydropower. It's hydropower. And their cost of power is, I think, 40% of what hyperscalers or power data centers have here in the United States. But if we go back to the analogy of my friend selling, either his choice is to sell natural gas or use it and sell the finished product and make that profit. What Telus is doing, they could sell that power in their data center and make, compete with every other data center in the world. And it's a competition on price, just like natural gas is. If you produce it in New Mexico or Louisiana or there used to be a differential for the Rocky Mountains, but they have pipelines in there now. But basically, wherever you produce it, you're looking at the same prices with an adjustment for transportation. Pretty much. I mean, it's also the BTU content. Nothing is ever simple. But in broad stroke, you've got to compete with everybody. So it's how efficiently you find and lift your natural gas. That's your profit. There's nothing special about your natural gas. Somebody else could put it into the pipeline just like you could. So how you make money is efficiency, but you got to take the market price. Well, this is data centers, and this is the power provided to them. Yes, electricity prices are going to go up. Yes, in some areas, you could argue that people are going to make a lot of money with energy. I would argue that I think it's going to firm up natural gas prices. But you're competing with everybody else. Whatever it is, you're competing with everybody else. I don't know if it's profitable or not profitable, what the margins are, but it doesn't make you stand out. And then it goes to your efficiency, your other costs, your overhead. You got to take care of the Inuit tribes in the middle of Northwest Territories and announce that first. You got all the obligations of a socialist company in Canada. So what if you look at it this way, what Telus is doing? Telus is providing the power, the data center, and the setup, the data stack, but it's NVIDIA, it's I don't know who it's going to be. Might be Cohere, might be Anthropic, it's, FIX, XI, and I think it's Railtown. From uptown to downtown, I think it's Railtown. But we'll find out. Well, what Telus is going to become is like my friend selling Bitcoin instead of natural gas. Telus is going to be selling AI solutions to users instead of selling power. Now, I don't know what the markup is. I don't know if it's going to be like an MCF goes from $2 to $12 in that comparison. I don't know the metrics. But I want you to think about that Telus, rather than selling just the raw material, is building a product that they get a piece of when they sell it, a big piece of, when they sell it to their customers as a useful AI product. If you're an AI software company, you're using Telus, and then you're building your tools that you're selling on to your customers. Like those 200 AIP companies, they have 5,000 end users. Or, it might just be a developer that's using it. But I ask you to think in the analogy of my friend who, instead of selling natural gas at $1.70 an MCF, by using his own supply to do something productive, mine for Bitcoin, he's selling the MCF effectively at $12. Think about that might be a way, that might be an analogy for what Telus is doing at its data center in Rimouski. And now they're going to have cam loops. Anyway, all right, here we go. I want to read this to you. It's going to be impossible to read. It's impossible to tell a baby not to cry. It's just impossible. Okay, from the Financial Times. From the Financial Times, Telus, May 21, 2026. Telus investing $8 billion in Quebec through 2030 to enhance connectivity, support AI leadership, and drive economic growth. Investments in key projects will deliver critical infrastructure to strengthen the country's independence and leadership on the global stage. Montreal, May 21, 2026. Telus is investing more than $8 billion over the next 5 years to expand and enhance its network infrastructure and operations across Quebec. This commitment is part of Telus's larger commitment to deploy, look at this number, $66 billion. $66 billion. They got to make that work. And my thesis to you is the way it works is Railtown. To deploy $66 billion across Canada by 2030 to expand and enhance its network infrastructure and operations across Canada, fueling homegrown innovation and support the prosperity of urban and rural communities. Since 2000, Telus has invested $39 billion. That's a lot of pink dollars. Loonies. They're not pink, I guess. That's a lot of loonies. $39 billion in Quebec in technology and operations to advance connectivity, boost productivity, and support a robust national economy. $66 billion and they're not done? Are you out of your mind? The $66 billion announced today builds upon the $294 billion that Telus has put to work across Canada since 2000 to ensure our fellow citizens have the vital connectivity needed to thrive in today's digital world, said Darren Entwistle, president and CEO of Telus. The critical infrastructure our talented team of innovators and engineers is creating represents the 21st century equivalent to building transportation corridors that connect our country. Wow. Telus, that's like the railroads and the highways and the ports. Telus's investments over the past 26 years represent the financial equivalent of constructing 84 Canadian Pacific Railways or 58 St. Lawrence Seaways or 27 Trans-Canadian highway systems. Wow. Importantly, the connectivity we are delivering helps improve the lives of Canadians by enabling teleworking, online healthcare, and education flexibility, while also accelerating Canada's digital economy for heightened productivity, innovation, and competitiveness. Moreover, our 5G and pure fiber networks are supporting transformational change in respect of our remediating our environment, advancing agricultural efficiency and food chain security, and bridging socioeconomic and geographic divides. Indeed, Telus's world-leading 5G network now reaches more than 90% of Canada's population, while our global best Telus Pure Fiber network brings the fastest and most reliable internet technology on the planet to 3.7 million households and businesses and counting, covering 99% of Telus's legacy copper footprint. Over the past 26 years, Telus has laid 162,000 kilometers of fiber, which is enough to circle the earth 4 times. The environmental and societal benefits of replacing copper with Telus Pure Fiber are considerable. Notably, by recycling decommissioned copper, Telus has eliminated 9,300 tons of emissions, equal to removing nearly 2,000 cars from roads for a year. Moreover, as we decommission copper from our central offices, we are redeveloping these now vacant buildings to be used as affordable, sustainable housing. By continuing to invest in our world-leading networks, we are demonstrating Telus's commitment to always building Canada, always be closing, supporting our fellow Canadians for generations to come. Now, through 2030 in Quebec, Telus is advancing Canada's tech and AI sovereignty. Bullet point, expanding our $2 billion investment to bring the speed and connectivity of Telus Pure Fiber to regions of Quebec and Ontario that haven't seen the benefit and scale of this investment to date. Stimulating job growth, accelerating innovation, and enhancing productivity. Bullet point, building more than 60 new cell towers this year, in partnership with Terrion, supported in part by funding from the government of Quebec and deploying targeted enhancements to our 5G and LTE services at nearly 300 existing sites across Quebec, significantly increasing wireless coverage and capacity to meet the evolving needs of our customers and communities now and in the future. Bullet point: strengthening Canada's AI infrastructure to meet surging demand for advanced compute power through the Telus Sovereign AI Factory in Rimouski, officially ranked as the fastest and most powerful supercomputer in Canada by Top 500. Our facility sold out following its September 25 launch, and we are now expanding our compute inventory to meet continued demand. I can't see the rest of that sentence. Bullet point. Maybe that was the end of the sentence. To meet continued demand. Bullet point. TELUS Digital is advancing Canada's sovereign AI capabilities through Fuel IX, a platform enabling Canadian companies to deploy secure, my eyesight isn't perfect, to deploy secure, domestically controlled AI assistants. Building on industry-leading safety practices, Fuel IX Fortify addresses Canada's stringent, this goes to Justin's point, stringent AI security and safety requirements through automated purple teaming and rigorous testing protocols, helping organizations confidently integrate AI while maintaining control over their data and systems. This has Railtown all over it. Pioneering environmental sustainability and economic prosperity. Advancing our journey to net zero as part of our world-leading copper retirement program, we continue to support the circular economy by reclaiming and repurposing legacy copper networks, helping meet Canada's need for this important resource. To date, we have mined more than 4,600 tons of copper from our network, enabled a reduction of 9,300 tons of GHG emissions, equal to removing nearly 2,000 cars from roads for a year, so Taylor Swift and her entourage can fly and drive anywhere they want. Supporting Indigenous economic prosperity by hosting Indigenous-led AI intelligence. Indigeconomics AI and Wasikan Kaisi Watsikun on our sovereign AI factories in Rimouski. I'm missing this one, I think. Strengthening Canada's food sovereignty and global leadership in sustainable production through TELUS agriculture and consumer goods by expanding our decisive farming agronomy services in underserved rural areas and supporting Canada's cattle producers. We're helping farmers produce more with less. These efforts ensure a safe, affordable, and efficient food supply for Canadians while delivering a critical reduction of up to 500,000 tons in GHG emissions by 2030, fostering healthy, connected communities, further bridging digital divides through Telus Internet mobility for tech good, as well as empowering Canadians to stay safe online. And that sentence probably ended right there. Those sentences didn't have periods at the end of them. Okay, fostering healthy, connected communities. Further bridging, I might have read this already, but let's just do it again. Further bridging digital divides through Telus Internet mobility and tech for good, as well as empowering Canadians to stay safe online through Telus Wise. Since inception, these initiatives have helped bridge digital divides for over 35,000 people across the province while ensuring they remain safe in our digital world. Bullet point: empowering Quebec's youth and removing barriers to help them reach their full potential. Since 2005, the Telus Friendly Future Foundation and our Telus Community Board, serving the entire province, have directed over $27 million in grants to more than 1,600 health and education-focused charitable initiatives that support youth, and 200 student bursaries for post-secondary students. From removing financial barriers for students to supporting numerous charity partners serving the critical needs of youth, such as Dr. Clown Foundation, Table des Chefs, I don't know, chef, that's not how you say that, chef, Swab the World Foundation, and Pro Jeunesse Rimouski Neget. We are committed to building a friendly future for youth across Canada. Well, actually across Quebec. Delivering vital healthcare through Telus Health for Good to over 37,000 patient visits from underserved Quebecers since 2014, supported by our $1.8 million ongoing investment in partnership with organizations like Old Brewery Mission. Bullet point: strengthening Quebec's healthcare ecosystem through Telus Health, serving more than 70,000 healthcare practitioners with digital health solutions. Bullet point: investing more than $5.6 million to amplify locally reflective stories and support emerging and underrepresented creators, filmmakers in Quebec through grants, production funding, training, mentorship, and distribution across national platforms through Telus Content Funding Program, Ma Communauté. Fostering community connections through something. Investing more than $5.6 million to amplify locally reflective stories and support. Oh, we already did that. Fostering community connections through strategic partnerships with MTLS, Grand Théâtre de Québec, Festival Musique du Bout du Monde, Spectart, CF Montréal, Rouge et Eau de l'Université Laval, les Oceaniques de Rimouski, Drakkar, de Baie-Comeau, Espèce, Telus, Complexe, Desjardins, de Rimouski, Enfant Soleil, Numana, Montreal Séance Center, Montreal Old Port, Saint-Anne, Mont Sainte-Anne, and Mont Tremblant. Additionally, since 2000, Telus, our team members and retirees have provided 1.85 billion in cash in-kind contributions, time and programs, including 2.5 million days of volunteerism to communities in Canada and around the world. These investments are consistent with Telus's capital expenditure guidance for 2026 as disclosed in the company's fourth quarter 2025 results and 2026 targets news release dated February 12, 2026, and in the company's first quarter 26 results and news release dated May 8, 26. Telus also embraces tax morality as a means of further investing in our communities. They're so good. Since 2000 and as of the end of 25, Telus has paid approximately 65 billion in total tax and spectrum remittances to our federal, provincial, and municipal governments across Canada, consisting of corporate income taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, employee portion of payroll taxes, various regulatory fees and spectrums remittances, including more than 2.6 billion in taxes in 25 alone. These funds support public works projects, education, healthcare, cultural pursuits, and other initiatives that improve the social and economic well-being of our communities. Forward-looking statements. Everything in here could be a lie. All right. Do your own work. That was from the Financial Times, but it seems like that was a paid promotion. But anyway, I think Telus is out there making sure they're on Canada's side, so Canada's on their side. And the key thing I take from there, this is adding it all up, it's over 100 billion. It's probably much more than that. That it has to give a return to them. And it can't just be a commodity return. And I think what turns the investment in these stacks into, in my example of Bitcoin mining in New Mexico, from $2 natural gas to $12 is taking the hydropower and the stacks, creating a product that everyone in Canada, from enterprises to individuals, wants to use either directly or through AI providers. But what makes the whole system work is the glue, the cartilage, the oil, the grease, the tentacles, the integration of Railtown. Makes the whole thing work. Makes the cash register ring. And we're going to find out about that. And I don't agree with that gentleman who says you got to wait, like Tony says, 2 years to see the revenues. That is bad advice. All you need is that information gets to the internal analytical people at research firms, investment banks, PE firms, venture capital funds, mutual funds, not to mention the big companies. My gosh, they're not going to wait like Tony the Tiger is. Imagine that Homer's retirement fund says we need to have 10% of this in our accounts. They're not waiting because they trust their own work. They don't need to see it in a news release. They trust their own abilities to do projections. All right, simply Wall Street. Telus, it's a similar story, but I just want to hammer home how much money Telus has on the line that they've got to make it work. Telus is committing over $66 billion in multi-year investments to expand network and AI infrastructure across Canada. The company plans over $14 billion to $15 billion of spending in Alberta and British Columbia to upgrade connectivity and data capabilities. Telus is partnering with the federal government and other partners. Now that can involve red tape, and so we get impatient, but this is a big effort. And other partners to build a sovereign AI facility in Vancouver focused on high performance. And sustainability. Telus trading. Telus trading at around $17 Canadian is moving deeper into digital infrastructure and AI at a time when its long-term share performance has been under pressure. The stock is down 5% year to date and has declined 16% over the past year, with a 21% decline over 3 years and a 15% decline over 5 years. For investors watching T on the Toronto, these large commitments highlight how Telus is positioning itself within Canada's long-term digital and AI build-out. The focus on sovereign AI capacity and sustainable data centers may be important for future policy, security, and enterprise spending decisions in the Canadian market. Stay updated by adding it to your watch list. This is the earnings. Doesn't that help you? Clarifies everything. This AI and network build out pushes Telus further into data infrastructure and data cloud services, closer to what investors might associate with global cloud and AI producers than a traditional telecom utility. By committing to more than 150 megawatts of high performance AI compute on Canadian soil, backed by NVIDIA technology and federal support, Telus is tying its future more closely to demand for large-scale AI training and secure local data processing from enterprises and governments. For shareholders, that could mean a larger portion of value coming from data center and platform revenues rather than just wireless and broadband access. It also introduces significant execution and capital allocation risk on top of an already investment-heavy business, especially when recent quarterly earnings and net income have been under pressure. All the more reason for success with Railtown. How this fits the Telus narrative. The sovereign AI cluster directly supports the narrative that Telus is using next generation technologies to broaden revenue streams and reduce dependence on commoditized telecom services. They don't have any pricing power there. Railtown gives them pricing power. The scale and timing of these data center projects could challenge expectations for lower capital intensity and faster balance sheet repair, especially with earnings volatility already visible in recent results. I think AI is going to make up for it. The environmental and district energy elements of the Vancouver facilities, plus the positioning of Vancouver as a digital gateway to Asia Pacific, are not fully captured in the existing narrative about broadband, 5G, and digital health. Knowing what a company is worth starts with understanding the story. That's my argument. And the risks. There's the risk. Tony would want you to know the multi-site AI cluster, long-term capital spending, flagging concerns, shifting closer to the territory of large global players such as Bell Canada, Rogers, and cloud hyperscalers increases competitive pressures and leaves Telus exposed if AI demand pricing does not support planned capacity. Again, all reasons for the benefit Railtown brings. Federal backing and sovereign AI positioning may make Telus a preferred partner for government and regulated industries that need local, secure, and high performance compute. That's a reward. Another reward, the focus on renewable energy, heat, recycling, and water efficiency could support customer demand from organizations with strict sustainability requirements, potentially widening Telus's addressable market. Investors should track how quickly Telus fills capacity at its Quebec, it apparently sold out, and British Columbia AI facilities, the pricing and contract length of those deals, and whether the company contain overall capital intensity while funding this program. It's also worth noting how the new CFO and upcoming CEO transition manage dividend policy, leverage, and returns from these projects, as well as any competitive responses from other telecoms and cloud providers in Canada. Telus unveils inaugural biodiversity strategy, an action plan underscoring importance of nature-based solutions in combating climate change. That just came out today, and it's completely relevant to what we're doing. Telus recovers 4,600 tons of copper as it retires legacy lines in Alberta. Telus says its $14 billion Alberta build will advance its environmental goals by retiring and recycling old copper. According to Telus, it has already recovered a lot of copper. Amid rising demand for secure AI infrastructure, you've already heard all this part. The project is moving forward in advancing wireless networks, at least with 45 new towers and upgrading more than 400 sites across the province. Amid rising demand for secure AI infrastructure, this copper retirement program is part of a public service announcement. Broader effort to modernize its networks. Telus frames the Alberta build with new wireless sites and expanded AI facilities as groundwork it believes which will keep Canada competitive in both connectivity and AI. How to use Claude. All right, that is it. No comments. I must have bored everybody. Okay. I bored everybody. It's almost 6 o'clock. Let's just see if there's anything happening. It doesn't seem like we're at war, so maybe this will hold. Trump losing his party as White House crisis summit implodes. Over 1.8 billion fund for J6 riders. What's going to happen when they find out that that was... Anyway, I'll keep my comments to myself. All right, so I think I'll leave it. We did a good job today. I know it was a little boring, but we're just trying to have patience. I think the reward will be worth the wait. I think if you think about how big this is, it's not just as easy as saying we have a contract and we have these revenues. This is a whole Canadian-wide effort to build out the entire country in the next technology. I don't think we have anything that comes close. And in that context, we can, I think, allow that it's not so much delays. Maybe it's our own feeling of waiting, but that just how big this is. It's not just Railtown, although Railtown has to work to make the platform, install it, all that. But it's NVIDIA, it's the availability of the chips, it's Telus, it's all that government stuff that I read to you. They need to check all those boxes and cooperate with the government. And then it's delivering capacity. And all of this has to happen in this rollout. And so, yes, it seems to take forever, but it's big. It's really big. And I take comfort in the fact that Railtown isn't working on a series of small contracts that come out and then they got to go get a series of more. This is truly, I don't think I don't think that it's company transformational, it's transformational at the company level, although it is that. I think this is transformational for the whole entire Canadian project of AI, but it also looks like it's going to have applicability wherever in the world. Sovereign, in other words, protected from the CIA data and from Mossad data is going to be necessary. And I submit that's the majority of the world. Before we go, there's a headline here that breaks my heart. And if you ever pray, maybe we can all just say pray for these two little boys. Parents abandon brothers age 5 and 3 after leaving them blindfolded in the Portuguese woods. Two little tow-headed boys left in a wooded area. Bartholomew and Zachary, age 5 and 3, were found wandering down a rural road between the towns of Alcácer do Sal and Comporta at 7 p.m. with nothing more than a change of clothes, 2 pieces of fruit, and 2 bottles of water. They were crying, they were terrified, they were crying and calling for their father. They were both covered in dirt and bruises. One had hurt his knee. Neither boy had any identifying documents on them. The Quintazes took the children to their home and called the police, and they were taken to Setúbal Hospital. They were given a clean bill of health. They were not drugged. The boys actually come from France. Their parents told them they were going to play a game to drive away the devil. Their mother, 41-year-old Marine, and stepfather, Mark, blindfolded them and took them to a wooded area before telling them they could only remove their eye covers once they had found a knife the couple had buried in the ground and used it to cut them off. God bless them. The boys were digging around in the dirt for several minutes before Bartholomew took their blindfolds off. To their shock, the boys realized they were all alone. Still believing that they were playing a game, the boys wandered the area for several hours through a part of Portugal that can reach up to 30 C during the day at this time of the year. The oldest one told me he and his brother had gotten lost in the forest and that their father and mother had left without taking them. I realized right away they had been abandoned by the backpacks. When I saw the way the backpacks were packed, I knew they had been abandoned. Anyway, if you have time, say prayer for those 2 boys. I can't imagine anything more horrible. Maybe the boy's father will find them. That, maybe that'll be what happens. Anyway, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for tuning in. And we're getting ever closer. Ever closer. Tomorrow, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Cheers.